not work, blah, blah, blah. But we were talking a little bit about falling back into old habits post-COVID. And one of the discussions that I had was, how do we really stop ourselves from a subconscious level trying to get back to normal, wanting it to get back to normal, trying to have conversations like we used to have with people in the same way? And I'm not saying COVID in Melbourne particularly is any different right now. Like, we're fairly pretty back to normal, and I'm sure a few of you have got back into some old habits. But for me, it's killing off the habits that weren't that good even when we were flying, or things were a little bit different that weren't serving you. And this is a discussion around performance, and this is a discussion around, where do I pick myself up on things that don't work, but I do them anyway? And so we've spoken about this in terms of networking and stuff, and meeting up with people that actually are adding zero value at this point in time of where you're at. But where are we really now subconsciously going back to exactly what it was, or trying to get back to where it was? And so I want to address it. I want to address, where are we not recreating the future in the form in which we want it, versus trying to recreate the future in the form in which we were once comfortable. So when we were most comfortable was pre-COVID, right? Psychologically, even though we're trying to build our businesses, most of us felt more secure than we probably do now. So we start to seek out that feeling again, and we try and recreate it, right? It's when you find, when you see a lot of people travel in their early 20s, when they go over to London, all the Melbourne people stick together. Like, why on earth have you traveled across the world to find the same people you live with? You know, you see it in all the different cities, right? All the backpackers, oh man, we all live, who would have thought we're only a K from each other? You idiots. You're here to experience something different, right? It's not that they're bad people, but we're looking for the same sort of people that see the world the same, that we can enjoy that. That's fine, but at least know what we're doing. And it happens in business too. So sometimes when you start to get a handle of your business, what you'll do is you'll find ways to put stress back into it. Like, you've got everything rolling, and they go, oh, I don't really need to go to that meeting anymore. That's essential for you to go to it. And then you start working out, why am I stressed about that? And you go, because I'm not getting any of the information that meeting used to get me, or that person used to do, or you change it. You start trying to work out, where am I? It's not self-sabotage. It's, where am I pulling out the wrong activities to create this subconscious stress or anxiety, or the things I used to feel? Because the problem with success, and we have this with a lot of clients, is they get an exceptional result in some part of their life. So they try and recreate the anxiety, because that now leads to success. So once it was their enemy, they get a result, but all they can link is the stress led to the result. And we have to break that habit, because that's not what happened. It was a byproduct of just how you remember feeling. Does that, let me give you an example. We want to learn how to shoot a three-pointer, and you can't throw a three-pointer. So I come and I punch you in the face, and then by a miracle, you shoot a three-pointer. Now you think the reason you shot a three-pointer is because I punched you in the face. In fact, that didn't help at all. You were just lucky. But I realize that's a stupid example, right? But can you see how, when you're carrying anxiety and things start to move, your reference point of emotionally is how I felt led to success? And so we've got to identify patterns that didn't work for us, because it's very easy to slip back into them. Because when I'm like this, let me give you a more crude example, potentially. When I behave like this, my wife cares for me more, or my husband cares for me more. So I behave like that, because I love when I get a cuddle at night, because I've had a hard day at work. So every time I walk through the door, even if I've had a great day, well, I want to get that result, right? I want to get a bit of a cuddle and a kiss, so I'm going to pretend I'm tighter than I am. Like, subconsciously, you're looking for that because you enjoy the outcome of it, right? And it's really subtle, but you have to start looking at yourself of where you've created behaviors that get a result, and work out how to get that result with a different behavior, or you'll keep repeating it in some way. It's real tricky, because it comes in different forms, but this is that level of self-awareness of, where do I sabotage at times things because I'm looking for an emotional feeling? And we've spoken about emotional feelings a lot, right? I've seen it in management, where you've been working with someone really closely, and you've been riding them a little bit. And then what you do is, you don't need to ride them, because they've got their department together, or they got their job together. And then they feel detached. So they start performing badly again because they miss the attention, or they miss the relationship, or they start getting nervous because why am I not being spoken to? It's because you're doing the thing you don't need to be, right? But that was never communicated. So they look for a way to recreate it, right? And so this is what we all have to do in our positions, which is what serves me and how do I feel and why do I feel like that? Because we're all emotional junkies. And so we're always got to look at what am I creating to get that emotional reaction. So sometimes it works in the positive. Man, I feel so good when I get a sale. I need more of that. And you see people who are hungry for it, right? Great BDMs are hungry for the chase because they get such an emotional state from the sale, the win, solving a problem. Where other people who've linked sales to, man, I'm embarrassed and it hurts and I get rejected, avoid it at every cost. And that might have just been dumb luck early in your process. It's like people who know how to charge because their first sale, they didn't get rejected. We have someone else who has great value, but the first someone said to them once, you're expensive. And now they always feel like, man, we're expensive. That was one person's opinion at the wrong time in your development. And this is all common, right? This is all a really common thing. So for the discussion tonight, or the question that came through first, Nigel and I obviously pre-spoke about it, which is, where am I looking to get back into my old habit? Let me give you a really silly one. Have you changed your physical environment? What are you projecting from your physical environment? Some people love a dirty desk because it looks like they're busy. So they project it in the desk form. Oh man, look at all my papers. I'm so busy. No, you're just disorganized. But that's still a projection of our personal brand, right? It's like some people who work really late. Oh, I got to be in the office late. Go, why? You did nothing for the last 3 hours. Should have just gone home. So thinking about, where am I projecting who I'm not anymore? And what does that mean for me and my expression? So I used to sort of have a saying is, before I hire someone, I want to see their car. And I couldn't care less what they drive. I just want to see how they keep it. Is it dirty? Is it clean? Are they fastidious? Do they don't really care? That's not a be all and end all, but it gives you an idea of the person, right? Because everyone can dress up for an interview. I wish I could walk through their house and see how they live their life, right? Not because I'm judging them, it's about whether they work with my personality. Because I don't want to bring them in there if they're not that sort of person that values those things, and I am. We're just going to have issues. But think about where you're projecting. What are the things that you're leaving on the table? What are you projecting at home because that's a behavior that's acceptable, but actually you could be better? Because you start to freak people out when you change the environment in your ecosystem. Like, I don't know, in your family environment, but cleaning up, right? It's generally a general one around that. And we're asking things and we're doing things like, what if I just didn't ask anymore and I just did it all? And everyone's go, oh, it's not my problem. I go, yeah, but just do an experiment and see the bomb that creates in the ecosystem. Like, people panic. I had a great headmaster, and I said, why do you always pick up the rubbish? He goes, because that's my problem. I don't like the rubbish sitting there, so I'll put it in the bin. And what I've found is that others that always, it gives them permission to perform how they want to perform. So other students would then pick up rubbish that wasn't theirs because that was their standard. And he showed me, and I was like blown away. I was like, oh, I've never thought of it like that. So now I'm like, how do you throw bombs into your ecosystem to see what happens, right? And most people are scared because when you muck around with your ecosystem, you're scared you can't go back. Don't worry, it always goes back if you allow it in some form. So I think this is part of that discussion, which is, where in my life am I allowing things to go back to my norm or my acceptable level, but actually weren't serving me that well? And I can change it up. I can do better, right? And so I want you to consider that, and we maybe can have a discussion around that from a business point of view too, is if you were really brutal on yourself and I said, hey, wherever your office is right now, rebuild it. Rebuild it for what is you. And if it's exactly the same as how it is, mate, all power to you. But if it's not, fix it. So every day when we were building our company, when we had no resources, we played a game, my wife and I, who built our companies together. Every day we'd walk in the door and we would remove something that no longer fits who we are. Remove from our space. First, it started with the dead pot plant. Then it started with the pen holder we didn't like. Then it was an old TV that we were storing because it was there. And then it was this, then it was that. Then it was we vacuumed somewhere that's been annoying us. Then it was changing a light globe that would flicker every 6 months. You know, it was just little things. And you run out of things to remove. You start looking around at your people. Go, who doesn't fit with who I am now? Brutal, but necessary. Who doesn't fit with who I want to communicate as a client anymore? How do I get rid of them and start transitioning? And this, when you do this exercise, one thing a day, what it does is it keeps your awareness in who you are now, because you've evolved, but you probably found a lot of times in life when you evolve, everything doesn't catch up at the same speed. Of course it's not, because you're not changing the environment with you. So eventually two things are going to happen. Either everyone will come up to your level or you'll come back down. It's like, why am I so tired, right? Every Friday night, all I do is go to nightclubs and smash a whole lot of drugs with friends. Man, why am I so tired every week? If you were going to a health retreat on Friday, I reckon you'd have a different result. Now, I'm not saying right or wrong and who am I to judge, but the point is know what you're doing. Pay the tax of what you're doing, right? And this is the same with our business. Instead of going to the nightclubs and having the times of our lives, it might be spending the time prospecting, allocating the time for the right conversations, making sure we're doing some of the fundamentals that we know we need to start doing as the business grows, because we've got new different problems, right? Bigger teams, more communication, bigger prospects. You know, sometimes the first big prospect you have, you don't realize I need to do more work prior to the sale. Make sense? You know, Jace, we're just talking about that, right? It might be a different approach because we're playing in the big leagues, right? So just some of the things that change. And that might be little things like maybe I need to speak to someone who's engaged with these people before if I've not had that experience. Maybe I need to just do some research. Maybe I need to understand the problems more because it could be a big deal. So it's just all these little things that are around increasing the performance that don't seem obvious until you think about them. And then we start to adjust. But the problem is when you start to adjust, everything is affected because you can't just do it in one area. You start to actually increase the level, right? People drop off. They'll come back. Don't worry. You don't lose people forever unless you're a real rude person. But at some stages, you need to adjust who you're hanging around with because it doesn't fit who you are right now. The people I find that are most upset in life have generally stuck around people that changed values for too long and they regret the time, not the person. And then you sort of wake them up to, yeah, but just remember you were doing that because you were protecting yourself from change. That's okay. Now you're aware of it. Let's change. It's not a judgment. This is just starting to understand as business owners how we perform better. So you might love your company, but it's not where it needs to be. So things have to change. It doesn't matter how much I love my fish pond. If I want to grow an ocean, things are going to change, right? If not, it'll be the best fish pond we've ever had. But it's just not going to be the ocean that I'm trying to create. And this is what small businesses don't particularly do well, is they don't want to change something that's good enough. Because who wants to break things that are working? But then on the other hand, it's like, but I want to grow bigger. Great. Then that's the decision. But you can't have both. Risk versus reward, evolution hurts. So for everyone listening, you know, and talking through that, where are you feeling that at the moment? And maybe Nigel will switch off there with only a couple of minutes because I'd like to have this debate with everyone on. Is where do you feel there's something that needs to be affected? And needs probably a strong word. Where do you feel that if you made a change there, you could really accelerate that area of your business or